Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. This is Joni Young and today I'm going to be showing you step by step how to paint this pretty old-fashioned looking Christmas landscape with a wreath full of candy canes and old-fashioned ornaments and sugar plums and little frosty berries and just anything that came to my mind. I added it in the wreath, and go ahead and add whatever you'd like to. A few little birds or cardinals and bluebirds will look pretty as well. So I'm going to go over the colors right now. I've got titanium white. We're using a 9x12 canvas. I'll have a full list of all the colors and brushes below this video. So I'm just going to scoop out a little bit of my titanium white now, and then I'm going to add the other colors. We'll be using some Mars black, or any black or white that you want, some light olive green, some pink. I'm using some neon colors today, but you can use any regular pink and orange or yellow that you have. That'll work just fine. And I've got phthalo, blue, neon yellow warm, and neon pink. I'll be adding a few other colors later on, so I'll mention them and add them to the list below as well. I'm going to start with my number 30 Filbert brush by getting it a little bit wet. Then I'm going to take some white in combination with my yellow, and I'm going to start with a soft golden sun in the center, and I'm just going to be going around in circles, making a glowing effect from the sun. And then I'm going to go in and start adding a little bit of my pink. The pink will gradually mix in a little bit with the yellow and the white. And once the pink and the yellow fade out and it gets more towards the pink, then I'll be coming in with a little bit of phthalo blue and overlapping, and that's going to make a really pretty light blue violet color. So you'll see how that transforms and progresses as we go along. When you start to add your next color, it's really important to know where to add it. So you want to add it partially on where you left off with the first color. So I add it partway over that yellow and then work my way out. So that way the color transitions a lot easier and you get more of an ombre. So I'm going to keep adding more and more pink as I make the circle bigger and cover more of the canvas. I'm not too worried about painting down below, but I will just kind of carry it around, but I'm not going to make it a solid color down on the bottom of the canvas. We'll be covering that up with a few other colors and then the wreath later on. Okay, so as I finish this step up, I'm going to switch over to my phthalo blue with a bit of white, and I'm going to wash my brush out completely first. I'm going to even pick up a little bit of pink in there. This is a little color recipe if you're wondering how to make light blue violet. This is one color recipe. You can use ultramarine blue, you can use cobalt blue. You'll get different variations, but all very similar light blue violet colors. They all vary slightly depending on which blue you use and also which white you use. So I'm just going to start along the very outer edges of the canvas, apply most of the paint there, and then work my way in towards the pink, making it lighter and lighter and lighter. So you don't want a lot of paint on your brush, you don't want a lot of water either, you just kind of want enough of a moisture in your brush, I guess you could say, to help blend that in and create a soft faded look. So if you need to add a little bit more water to your brush or a little bit more paint, it depends on the temperature in your room, what kind of paint you're using, what brush you're using. There's so many different, it's not really cut and dry, there's so many different things that play a part in it. But just do what you have to do in order to get a nice blended look. But if you do add too much water to your brush, you're never going to get that soft blended look. You're going to be left with so many streaks and it'll be tough to do. So less water when that happens. All I'm doing now is just tapping in and pulling and dragging around with my brush to create some soft looking clouds and to make them show up. Of course, I chose to add a little bit of this blue color, or the light blue violet that I made. So it's just a combination of taps and then little wiggles and pulls. Just going to blend out the bottom a little bit and get ready for the mountains that I'll be adding. Before I add my mountains though, what I want to do is just soften inside the clouds a little bit. So once I finish this down here, I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush. I've got a number 4 Filbert here, and I'm going to take a little bit more white with a hint of that blue in there, and just very lightly and gently go inside the clouds. This way when it dries, it'll dry a really nice powdery blue shade. It'll be more like a smoky blue shade, and it won't dry too dark. As we know, acrylic paint dries 1 to 2 shades darker. So I'd like to add a little bit of white to all of my clouds. Even the little streaks and those lines in there, I'll go over those and add a little bit here and there. I might add a few new clouds. I want to start working a little bit more on the glow of my sun, so I'm going to just go around, outline it with a little bit of my yellow and grayish blue color there. That way it'll really stand out when I add my bright yellow and white on the inside. So I'll do that outline and then go straight to my neon yellow warm. Then I'm going to dab a little bit of titanium white, create a very tiny little circle there, and then leave it. I'm going to use the rest of the paint in my brush to just slide my brush side to side down below. Okay, I'm going to start working on my mountains now. I've got a mixture of phthalo, white, and black. So I'm going to get it all mixed together there on my palette first. And I'm just going to pull on an angle. My brush is pretty dry. I like a dry brush for part of my mountains, as it leaves a little bit of those crevices from the pattern and texture of the canvas showing through, and looks more like snow and little rocky edges, and it just gives a lot more depth to the mountains, I find. So I'm just going to choose one side of the mountains for my shadow side, and it makes sense to have the brightest part of the mountains the center where the sun would be reflecting the light onto. So the outer sides, the left side of the mountain on the left side, if that makes sense, is going to be in shadow, and then the right side of the mountain on the right side of the canvas is going to be in shadow as well. So I'm just going to soften the edges around a little bit. Most of that will be covered by our lamppost and our wreath, but I do want to make it look a little bit blended in and just soften it slightly around the edges. For my highlight, I'm going to choose the white alongside my neon yellow warm. You can use a little bit of pink too if you want. I've got a little bit of that yellow left there, so I'm going to just use that, not blend it too much. The paint is pretty thick on my brush, and I'm not going to push hard. I'm just really lightly going to pull and drag to make it look like all that ice and snow on the mountains. And then at this stage, you can change the shape of your mountains as much as you want. You can even go back and add more shadow and just kind of change the direction and the turns and edges that you have on your mountains. So you can really play around with them at this point. Even when they're dry, you could still add more lighter shadow, or I just recommend not cutting your mountains in half for your shadow for your sides. Otherwise, it'll look really unrealistic. So you want to have your mountains going more to the right or more to the left. Exaggerate your mountains a little bit so if that makes sense to you guys. I'm not sure if I'm explaining myself well with that, but I think you guys probably know what I mean. I've been teaching you guys and showing you demonstrating how to paint mountains for a while now here on my channel. But if you're not sure what that means, just leave a comment or a question below. And I'm just going to add a little bit more depth. This time I'm taking a little bit more black, and I'm going to go right on the other side of where I have my brightest highlight. And that's just to make it look more 3D and give it a little bit more of an edge. So I'm just squeezing out a little bit more of my neon pink, and I'm going to take some blue, I'm going to take some black, a little bit of my green, and some white, and I'm going to start making some trees down at the base of the mountains, but we're not going to see a lot of details. All we're doing right here is just tapping repetitively to create sort of like a texture and a forest that's far away. So you're not painting branches or anything like that. You're just going to use the Filbert brush, and the Filbert brush is great for this technique. So if you just tap away like that, and don't bring the trees up too high, because they're a lot farther down. They're down the hill, right? We've got our lamppost up by us, and we're up on a hill looking down at this valley down below. And then, of course, we've got that cozy little cabin with the smoke coming out of the chimney that will be kind of set off partially down the hill to the left side. And then I'm just going to create this little hill right up here, this little bank that our lamppost is going to be on. So first I'll do it in that same kind of slate greenish gray color that we made. And then I'll build up some highlights. And this is just to make it stand out from the rest of the painting. So we're creating some foreground here. And just pulling my brush around and kind of rounded slopey scoops. And then I'm just going to add a little bit down here off to the left as well, and build this area up where we're going to have our little cabin. I just want to soften everything with a little highlight of white here. And the paint underneath is still wet, so I'm kind of blending it in slightly, but I'm not ever going over one spot or place too many times. If you overblend, you'll lose your highlights and your shadows, and you'll be left with like a flat look to your painting. So just try to do less brush strokes and less blending when you're painting. Kind of just tap it on there and leave it. And I'm just going to add a little bit more of the white here, and then I'm going to wash my brush out, and we're going to begin working on our lamppost. The first color for the lamppost, I'm going to be painting the light inside, which makes sense, so then we can come around after with our black line for the lamp itself. So I'm going to create the light by using a mixture of my light yellow and titanium white, using my small Filbert brush. So it kind of looks like a little oval or egg shape that I'm beginning with here. I'm going to wash my brush completely out and then just go right back in with a little bit more of my yellow. And now I'm going to make sort of a rectangle shape that gets narrower down at the bottom for the shape of the lamppost. And I'm going to go into my phthalo blue, my black, and start adding the lines and cut in with the shape for our lamppost. So just one step at a time here, guys. If you need to slow this down or stop and pause it, just follow along, and it'll make it a lot easier if you just follow the steps one by one along with me. So a little triangle shape on top. I like to make the ends of them on either side kind of curl up. You can use a little liner brush to make it look like there's some scrolls and more of a design on either side there. And then I just wanted to add a little line in the center, but it ended up being a little bit too thick. So I'm going to take that off in just a moment and just go down and add the main post for my lamp and a little line, a skinny line underneath the lamp at the top. I'll be coming in and making this a lot straighter and kind of just pushing and taking off some of that paint. This is how I approach my paintings, freehand, and kind of move the paint around, take some off or add some more where I need to. And by all means, go ahead and sketch yours out first if you guys feel more comfortable doing that. It's whatever it's personal preference, whatever you guys feel comfortable with doing. There's no right or wrong way to approach this. And I'm going to just make the base a little bit wider here. So what I'm doing is just making little flat oval shapes, some of them narrower and some of them wider. This will just give it a little bit more character and make it look a little bit more old-fashioned. Kind of when I paint my lamppost, I always kind of think of that Lamppost in Narnia movie that I love, especially in my winter paintings. So I like to give them a lot of character, and then I kind of like to make my own. I kind of do my own thing with my lampposts and add a little bit of something here and there, a little bit of scroll work or whatever. So it's really fun when you get used to painting lampposts. You can create your own kind of signature lamppost to add to any landscape, really. I'm going to come in and start filling the top, that triangle on the top. Kind of looks like a frosty blue color. It's just a mixture of that blue violet that I made and with a hint of black that's in my brush. So any color lighter or darker than this would be just fine. You could even paint your lamppost. You can be really daring and paint it red or turquoise. So it doesn't always have to be black. I think it would stand out a lot better if you did the first base dark and then come inside with your color though. If you want a little tip for that, it'll look a lot more 3D and not flat. So I'll just add a little bit more here and there for my shadows here, and then I'll come in with some highlights. I'm going to be adding a little bit of snow. I'll use a smaller brush for that, and it's going to look really cool. I love the way this perspective is in this painting. I had nothing to go by for this. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to paint, and when I'm in those moods, I'm feeling the most free when I don't have anything in mind that I want to paint. I just love being really, really free in front of the canvas and just going for it and trusting my imagination, and whatever comes to mind, I transfer it over to the canvas. So I don't always have my camera rolling, but today I decided to do this for you guys. I haven't done one of these intuitive paintings for a while. I thought you might enjoy it. So I'm going to start coming in with my cabin now, and just a very simple basic cabin. I do 2 diagonal lines and then pull it across to join them, first in a darker color, and then I come in and add a little bit of white on the roof, a little chimney. I always like to add a little shadow for my chimney, so it's just like a little diagonal line. And then I'm gonna make it look like it's a log cabin by just pulling lines back and forth, and then little dabs or dots on each corner of the house to look like those notches, or the notches in the logs. I'm not sure if that's what they're called, but you guys know what I mean. And then I'm going to use straight black for under the roof line. That'll give it a really nice contrast and shadow. And I will be building my highlights in snow up on the house as we progress with this painting. I'll be tinting my white with that yellow so that we get that yellow glow reflecting on everything. But I'm going to work a little bit on the shadow here at the base off to the right side of the lamppost. So any darkish color that's not going to be solid black will work. You don't want your shadows to be as dark as the object. They need to be a little bit transparent. So I'm going to add another layer of highlights and snow on my roof, so just a little bit of that white. As it starts to dry, I'll be able to add a little bit of my yellow. I'm going to just kind of squiggle around here with my brush, just kind of pushing gently and blending out, working out that white on my brush, and it gives it a very see-through, realistic, smoky look. And then I'm going to come down at the base of the house and create some light. So a little bit of white, a little bit of neon yellow. It's going to be bright there from the reflection of the sunlight, and also the warm light coming in from the cabin. So we'll have a few windows. Also going to add a little Christmas tree. It's going to be so small that you can barely see it, but I'll zoom in and I'll show you guys how to paint that a little bit later on. I'm going to come in now and start adding more inside the lamppost. Now it's unusually cool in my house and it's taking a long time for the paint to dry, so that didn't work out well. I kind of just scraped it off really quickly and then added more white. I'll get back to that in just a little bit. But I'm going to start adding a little bit of snow and frost on the top of the lantern. So just a little bit of tapping with my gray, the white and the black, and so it makes a light gray color. Then we'll add straight titanium white later on for a nice fresh bright highlight on our snow. I'm going to add a little bit here at the base and on the left side of the lamppost. So wherever I have those designs there, those little lines or ovals along the post, I'm going to add a little bit of snow in between all of them. And I'm adding another layer of smoke coming out of my chimney here just because it started to fade away a little bit as it was drying. And I couldn't see it very well, so you might have to do that a few times. It just tends to happen if you're using watered down paint. So now I can come in with a fresh coat of the light inside my lamppost. So again, I'm using titanium white and my neon yellow warm. I'm going to add a little bit of that color down below at the base of the lamppost, just on the snow there around. And then what I want to do is start adding a little bit more saturation to the outer edges of the glass on the lamp. So I'm going to take a bit of pink, yellow, and then just tap all along the top, kind of along the top and the bottom. I'm going to make sure that the very center of the lamp, the light in the lamp, is the brightest. So I'll be adding a little bit of titanium white to the very center later on. And I'm going to start working on the windows here. I'm taking a tiny scoop, and you can use a little liner brush for this if you want. A tiny scoop of white, yellow. You can add a little bit of pink in there if you want. It's always nice to have like a warm coral color for your light as well. So just a few little dabs here wherever you want your windows. You can add a window to your door if you like. And then I'm going to add a little bit to the outside of the house too, where it would be reflecting and that light would be casting down. So here you can see I'm adding that white, bright white, not blending or pushing too hard. And add a little bit of that soft golden color on my roof as well, like I mentioned before. And see here, I accidentally took it down a little bit too low. So I'm going to show you how you can fix that if that happens to you. Just take some black and you can go right over it. So you can fix these little mistakes very easily and quickly. And I'm going to add a little bit more black to my roof line. Just clean it all up and make it stand out a little bit better now by adding edges, maybe shutters. This is just going to make the house look a little bit lighter than the black and make the darkest shadows around the house really stand out. Okay, I'm now going to come in and add some more detail on my lamp with my black, straight black. I'll go over the edges, these lines again, and then I'm going to use my liner brush this time and be extra careful to add the next line that goes through the lamp, the light. So I'm going to come in here and add a fresh coat and just really make this a lot darker, more solid looking. This will help make it stand out from the background and really bring it into the foreground. So you don't want to be able to see any little bit of your canvas showing through or the background. You don't want your object to appear a little bit see-through. So be a little generous with your black or whatever color that you're using. And I'm just going to start adding a little bit more light here before I come in with my little tree. So I've got my little tiny liner brush here, and I'm going to come in and just create a little bit of a scroll right there, and it's optional. Like I said, I just like to decorate and exaggerate my lampposts. So I'm going to go almost in the middle of the lamppost, but veer off a little bit more to the right side. And I'm going to add little bits of snow using my titanium white and just dabbing and tapping and kind of wiggling around, being a little bit shaky to make it look more natural. It gives the snow a little bit more of a soft but bumpy kind of a look. And I'll just add a little bit to the top of the lamppost as well. Okay, so after adding a little bit of snow to the top of my lamppost, I'm going to add a little bit more to the base and re-dab my windows. And then we're going to start working on our fence. So I'm going to continue using my little liner brush, and I'll just take my yellow and white quickly and just dab a few times down here, make my windows a little bit more visible. And then I'll brush off the rest of the paint at the base of the house and the lamppost. After washing my brush off, I'm going to make a brown kind of a color with a mixture of pink, black, and yellow. And make sure you have enough water in your brush. Liner brushes take a lot of water. So once I get sort of a dark fudgy brown color here, anything lighter or darker will be just fine. I'm going to start the almost said lamppost, fence post taller on the left side, so it feels like it's kind of closer to us in the foreground. And then I'm going to create that perspective and make it feel like it's going down the hill or down the bank by making them start to go down. I'm going to place one line lower than the next, and so on and so forth, making them shorter and shorter and less visible, so less paint. So I start at the top where I want them to be more visible, and then let the paint just kind of work out of my brush as we get down to those other little ones down there that kind of just disappear. Now here I just dabbed a little bit too much paint there, so I'll soften it with some white and work on that as we go along here. But I'm going to take some white paint right now and start adding some snow. It's snow and highlight at the same time. It makes the fence post look more 3D, and it also adds that little bit of snow there that helps to create this wintry wonderland vibe to this painting. Now once I finish doing this, I'm going to add some lines that go through for the boards that join our fence posts together. So I'll be doing the same technique, wider, darker, and thicker here, and then let the paint work out of my brush. Try to do it all in one stroke so it gets thinner and thinner down towards the bottom. Had a little bit of an oops down here, so I'll show you guys how you can fix that. Basically, you can just take the paint off and try it again, or you can go over it or kind of blend it around. There's a few different ways of correcting something that happens like that. But I'm just going to add a little bit more paint here, and then I'm going to come in and add some snow on the top of each of these little boards here. So once you get to a certain point, you can just kind of pull your brush all the way through and connect them all. But I think this makes a nice little addition to this landscape, and the little cabin and lamppost. It all kind of feels like a cozy scene to me. So let me know if you guys are enjoying these winter tutorials I've been doing. Feel free to leave a comment below, like the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, where you can see I've got well over 400 tutorials, playlists. There's so many different things to choose from here on my channel, and I love to teach. I'm passionate about painting, and I love inspiring and motivating and teaching you all. So I'm welcoming you to my channel, and hope you guys want to paint along with me. Really going to zoom in on as much as I can here, as much as my camera will let me, on our little cabin here. And I'm just going to take a little bit of white and yellow on the tip of my mini liner brush. And I wanted to kind of make it look like there were Christmas lights here. So I'm going to try that and see how it looks. And if I don't like it, I can just go over with my black again. But I'm just going to try to make tiny little dots here for some Christmas lights, and then I'll be adding a little Christmas tree, a lit Christmas tree outside after as well. So I do like the way that looks, but I lost a little bit of that edginess that I had from the black, so I'm just going to add a little bit more black here and there. And again, reapplying highlights with the leftover yellow and white that was in my brush. So kind of just go around and add a little bit more black here and there to make those windows and that light pop out. I might go over those lights later on. I'm not really sure. I'm just gonna kind of see how they look, if I like it. But let me know what you guys think. You could also do your lights in different colors, turquoise and purple and blue and whatever colors you like. So as I add a little bit more here to the windows again, just re-highlight the inside of my windows here, I'm getting ready to start painting our wreath, and I'm really excited. I've had kind of an idea over the years of painting a landscape with a wreath around it, and I haven't done it yet. So I guess it kind of started coming to me as I was painting this today, and I'm glad that I thought of that and that I decided to go for it. So I'm going to be using a 1-inch oval mop brush. You can use any brush you want to make your stipple brush stroke or technique with. That could be a fan brush, a filbert brush, any stipple brush. I really like these ones, so I use them quite often. And I'm taking my light olive green, it's very close to a green gold, with a little bit of black, no water at all, and I'm just going to keep tapping and tapping to create that texture and the look of greenery and those branches on our wreath. So I'm going to make the sides a little bit softer. I'll apply more of the paint in the center for that dense, thick look, and then just make it a little bit softer with less paint on the outer edges of the wreath. So I'm not going to have it really thick on the very top of the painting or in the middle there of the canvas, but I will be having some little decorations that will kind of loop around and really easily too. I'm showing so many easy techniques today that you can all do. When you first look at this painting, it seems like there's a lot going on. There is, but if you take your time and you're not in a hurry, you can do all of these things one at a time with me, and it really is easy. I'm showing you guys how you can do it, and this would be really pretty as a Christmas card too. All your designs, all your paintings, you can go online too and go to print shops and get prints of your paintings on mugs and Christmas cards. So if you guys have any questions about that, let me know. I've been making prints and mugs with my artwork for years. It's really fun, and they make great gifts. They're awesome for selling at craft fairs. I'm going to come in and add a highlight. So after this, I'm going to go right into just a straight green, and I'll tap a little bit of that here and there. And I'm not using any white yet. I will be using white next. So the first base coat is black and green. The second is straight green, and then the third will be a little bit of white. I'll be using a different brush because I'll have to wash this one out. And once you wash an oval or any mop brush out, you lose that shape. So it's good to have a few different sizes on hand. I'm going to use my little Filbert brush while that's kind of drying. I'm going to leave that for a bit, and I'm going to paint a little Christmas tree right here. So I'm using just that black and green, and I'm going to pull a little line and then just tap lightly. I'll add a little bit of white on the top to give it a frosty, snowy look. And then I'm going to take my little liner brush and just dab little tiny dots with my yellow and white for some lights. I'll add a little glowing star on the very top of the tree as well. wash this little brush off and I'm ready for the next layer on my wreath. I've got a new dry clean mop brush, and I'm just gonna, it's an angle mop brush. I really like these ones. These are makeup brushes that I get on Amazon. I've got a whole bunch of different sizes of them, and I'm just going right into my white, and I'm just gonna here and there sporadically tap in and make it look like frost or a light layer of snow on some areas of the wreath. So I'm not going to apply it all over. I'm not going to cover the entire wreath up, right? You want to have a little bit of that green and black showing. That will really help set off the white, and also all of the soft pastel colors that we've got, the softness in this landscape. I'm going to start using a little bit of orange. I've got neon orange today, and I've also got some scarlet red, but you can use any orange or any red that you want, even some pink. And I've got a little filbert brush. I'm going to create some little berries or little, I don't know, little sugar plums. I'm just kind of, or they can even be ornaments too, little round balls. I'm just making some round shapes with these colors, and then I'm going to add a white highlight inside, purposely wet on wet, so that I get like a softer shade, make like a pastel shade of those colors. It gives them that frosty look that I really like. And I'm going to paint a few of these all over. They could be holly berries too. Sometimes I'm going to do little groups of 3 like this. And in fact, that set of 3 I just did, I added some holly leaves to later on towards the end of the video. There's lots of little things here that I add to this wreath that remind me of my childhood and Christmases. I won't say when. Okay, well, back in the 80s, we had some really beautiful Christmases, and just adding all those little things that remind me of my childhood Christmas, like certain ornaments, those vintage ornaments that I love. To this day, I love them. And what else? Some tinsel, little icicle looking decorations on the wreath, red ribbons, of course, and candy canes. And I'm using a little bit of neon pink for my candy canes too. So kind of step out of your comfort zone, and you don't always think that you have to go with the traditional colors for things. You can go outside the lines a little bit and play up on your candy canes and the berries on your wreath, and make it look a little bit like those old-fashioned Victorian Christmas cards and pictures. So a little bit of turquoise and pink and all those pretty pastel colors. So I added that really pretty ribbon on the lamppost, scarlet red, a little bit of white and orange, crimson red. Did I say scarlet red? No, I've got crimson red, but you can use scarlet red too. There's many different types of reds that you can use, and you can't go wrong. I'm going to add a few little lights here, as well as little garlands, beaded garlands with my little liner brush, and yellow and white. And then later on, I'm going to even just kind of add a little bit of pink here and there as well. I'm going to play around with all the colors on my palette and really have fun with this. Adding some more white to one side of my berries there. Kind of just gives the berries a look of either frost on them or snow. Highlights. So I kind of alternate, and I go back and forth from creating the little lights, Christmas lights, which again, you can use any colors that you want for yours. One color that I left out of this painting, and I might go back later on, and add a little bit of turquoise too. Turquoise would be a nice addition for some vintage looking ornaments in this painting, maybe some lights. So really have fun with this one, you guys, and play around with all of your favorite colors. Christmas time is a time for being colorful and kind of going crazy with color. And I think in this painting you really can. You can do that. So I hope you guys are having fun, having some painting nights, and creating lots of gifts to give to your family and friends. I've got a whole playlist of winter and Christmas themed tutorials, hand painted ornaments that I show you how to make from start to finish, including the ribbon, how to varnish, all of that. So even if you don't want to make ornaments, you can learn how to paint the little landscape that I'm painting on them. So be sure to check those out. I'm going to keep painting all these little dots of garlands and lights around the wreath. And then I'll start coming in with my little candy canes. So again, you can use any colors that you want really for your candy canes. Nowadays you can get, they have all different colored and colors of candy canes and flavors, but I'm going to be using pink, my neon pink, white, and my red. And my red has a little bit of that neon orange alongside of it, so sometimes I'm picking up a little bit of that neon orange as well. And I add a few little ribbons here and there to my candy canes as well. I always think that looks kind of pretty. Now I am using a little liner brush here, and it's a little bit trickier to get the little circle dots. If you have a small round brush, I would recommend using that. It'll be easier than this. But if you have enough paint on the tip of your brush to work with one of these liner brushes, you can definitely do it. It just takes a little bit more patience. So some areas here where I have these little berries and these decorations, I'm going over and I'm adding some highlights on one side of them. It's blending into the wet paint underneath, which is really pretty because it's creating that soft peachy, like a fuzzy peachy color, and sometimes it's pink because I've got a mixture. I've got a few different colors on my palette there. I've got the neon pink that I'm using, the neon orange, and the red. So all of those are kind of playing off one another and being picked up when I add that bit of white. So here I'm coming in with my very first candy cane. I think I paint 3 all together. So just your regular candy cane shape. And I'm going to make them all different sizes. Then I'm going to have one up over here, turned the other way, the opposite way. So first, just in this light pink color, and then I'll be coming in and adding my pattern on my candy canes with some red, and then I'll come in later on and add a fresh coat of white for the lines inside. Okay, so I just added a little simple ribbon there just in white. And I'm going to start my biggest candy cane down here in the left hand corner. First I'm going to just paint this ribbon, this little bow here, and I'm going to start it in white. At this stage I didn't know I was going to paint that big candy cane. Otherwise I would recommend painting the candy cane first and then the ribbon after, because that makes sense, right? The bow is in front and around the candy cane. But first, this is what I did. I added a little bit of pink to my white and I made this big bow down here. And then I came in and added my candy cane. So what you want to do is create some highlights to make your bow more 3D. So you're going to add a little bit of white in front or on top and just kind of wiggle and ripple around with the tip of your brush for the ends of the ribbon. So there's just a few more highlights that I want to add. I'm really liking these soft peachy colors and pink colors. So I'm going to add a little bit more to my berries and my ornaments. And then I'm going to go right into my light green and white, still with my liner brush, and I'm going to add a few needles to the branches here on the wreath. So we have a bit of a frosty, lighter green look to some of the areas of the wreath. I thought this would be a fun addition and a nice color to add. You could also do this with a phthalo blue, a phthalo green, and white if you want more of that blue spruce look to your wreath. So you can really change it up and play around with your colors. So I'm going to start adding a few little, just going to go over this little bow a little bit more, but I want to add some holly leaves here and make this look like holly berries. So I'm just kind of scooping in and out, making them look pointy and then round inside. So it's pretty easy to do this. I'll make it dark first and then light on the inside. So I'm using both black and my light green. If you want to make yours look a little frosty, just add a little bit of white after. So I'll do 2 or 3 of these leaves and then I'll move on to the next step. Okay, so it's time to come in with our third and final candy cane, this one being the biggest. I'm again going to use my white tinted with either red or pink. You can use straight white if you want. And then I'm going to come in with my same pattern, just those little lines that start to twist and wrap around the candy cane. I'll alternate from red and then to white, and then I'll go over them later on too after that paint kind of sets in and dries, and just redefine them so that they look nice and clean and really stand out. I'll do that to all of the ornaments, the lights, and everything on my wreath. Okay, I want to re-brighten my light. So right in the very center here, closest to that black line, I'm going to add straight titanium white. Your highlights need to be applied a few times during the process of your painting, and sometimes even the next day. It's just a thing about acrylic paint. It always dries a little bit darker, so it doesn't hurt to go back, take your time, be patient, and add those final highlights. Like I said, sometimes even a day later. So I may have a look at this tomorrow and have to add a little bit more white in there. I'm also going to go around and add a little bit more of my neon yellow where I want to, just to make sure I've got that nice warmth, that golden warm light there as well. And I'm going to start working on the top of my wreath. I'm going to add those beaded garlands. I'll add a little bit more around the side here as well. And some of these areas I'm going to kind of pull, drag, and flick. You'll see how that progresses. I'll make it look like maybe little icicles or tinsel. So there's so many different things you can do with this, and I'm really excited to see your guys' versions of this one. I think if you love Christmas as much as I do, and painting Christmas scenes and making crafts, I think you guys are going to enjoy this one a lot, along with my Christmas ornaments. So I'm going to just go up here and I'm going to make them look like they hang down a little bit, right? Like a necklace. And that's really what they look like. They look like a bunch of necklaces, like pearl necklaces. So it's super easy to do this. Just lots of little dots and dabs using the white or any color that you want. I think the white shows up really nicely up there though, but you could do red. Oh, and another idea, I forgot to mention this. If you guys have metallic paints and you don't know what to do with them, this would be a great opportunity to use those metallic paints, because you could make your ornaments or these little garlands on your wreath look really shiny and metallic-y by using those paints. Also iridescent paint, a little bit of glitter. How pretty would that be, right? Especially if you're making a little Christmas card. So the glitter, I think I might take my own advice here and come back in and add a little bit of glitter on the wreath. I think that would look really, really pretty. But yeah, I'm just going to keep adding a little bit more here to the wreath. It's pretty repetitive, so I won't go over and tell you guys every single little thing I'm doing, because it's just pretty much the same thing that I've been doing for the last 20 minutes or so, just adding more highlights and shadows and the same type of ornaments. I'm just having so much fun doing this though, and I hope that you guys have had fun painting along with me or just watching this come together. Like I mentioned before, I have no reference photo for any of this. This is all just me painting intuitively. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you just, your mom gives you a piece of paper and some crayons, and you don't have a reference photo, you just start creating. And that's something that grown-ups forget about, right? We lose that as we grow up. So I never did. I'm a kid at heart, I guess. And I love doing this. And I really encourage you guys to try to be a little bit more intuitive and have fun and just paint from your imagination. What have you got to lose, right? If anything, it's a great exercise for you. And I'll leave you with that. I want to wish you guys happy holidays, Merry Christmas, sending you love, strength, health, and happiness. I hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy painting along. Please subscribe to my channel for more. And I'll see you all soon in my next video. Bye.